Alright guys, hey, it's Rob the Jeweler here. Today we got a customer with a large Figaro chain. This isn't solid though, this is hollow. So it's a little bit different to do. As you can see, it's broke here. And here's our other end. Now the link that apparently broke got lost because neither this end here or this end is cut. So what we're going to do so that we can link it back together is we're going to cut it on the side here with some clippers, some regular clippers. We're going to snip that. And we're going to open that up just a little bit, and you got to be careful because these links are hollow, so you don't have to, if you do too much bending back and forth, it'll just break. Then you got to cut another link. That link will be no good. So then just go ahead and take your other piece here. You can see we've got that one cut. We'll link it in like so, and you can see our cut link right here. Now the reason I prefer to cut the links on the sides here, on this, I pushed the link back together so it's kind of hard to see it now, but right there, the reason I cut it on the sides and not here in the top part is because sometimes when you flow solder there, and then these links, you know, they link into that groove right here. And if that solder is too thick or whatever, sometimes the chain won't lay right. It'll lay kind of crooked. It won't lay straight like it's supposed to. So that's why I like to cut it on the sides right here and link it together and then weld it. You really don't want to cut it in the top of the link right here, where the links lay flat with each other, because otherwise they'll most of the time, like 99% of the time, they'll lay crooked like this instead of straight like they're supposed to. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure this link is together as flush as we can get it. And you know what? That link's done. Look at that. That link's finished. See? It's just falling apart. Which here again is a sign that this has been exposed to bleach or chlorine. Bleach and chlorine, I don't know how many times I have to tell everybody. Bleach and chlorine damages your jewelry permanently. That damage is irreversible. So that link is done. We're going to cut another link here. Yeah, so if you're getting in a swimming pool, take your jewelry off. If you're going to be messing with bleach, take your jewelry off. Because this is what will happen. It'll actually make your gold very brittle. And it will just start cracking and just falling apart. As a matter of fact, I had one guy that come in with a necklace. He went swimming over a pool over the weekend over a 2-day period. And apparently this pool has some really strong chlorine. And his necklace just was falling off of his neck. It fell in like 10 pieces. And I told him, I said, hey man, you know, that jewelry, or that damage is permanent. There's nothing you can do about it. All you can do is buy you a new piece. Because yeah, I could fix it. You know, it would cost them an arm and a leg to fix it. But being that all the alloys have been ate out of it from the bleach and the chlorine, it'll be brittle. It'll just keep breaking. So there's really no point in fixing it once all the alloys have been ate out of the metal from the bleach and the chlorine. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we got us a good link here. We've linked it back in, we pushed it back together. This link seems to be a little bit sturdier than the other one. We're going to grab our holding tweezers, like so, and we are going to lock that like that. We're going to lock that link that we want to weld into the channel locks. And you can see this is the link we're welding together. Okay. Alright. Let's see here. Okay. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and put our boric acid and denatured alcohol on here. Let's swirl it up a little bit. We're going to go ahead and put some of that on here. And we're going to change to a 4-tip. We're going to use a 4-tip for this one. I know you guys get tired of hearing me say it, but usually you want to use a 3 or 4-tip for smaller items like chains, necklaces, bracelets. And usually you want to use a 5 or 6 for larger things like rings, silver. Silver is a whole different ball game. I'm sure at some point I'll have a video on that. Silver takes a lot more heat to flow than gold does. So I'm sure we'll have a video coming up on that at some point. And sometimes the torch likes to act a little weird. Don't want to fire up. There we go. I think we got some flame now. Now we're going to go ahead and burn off that boric acid denatured alcohol. Again, all that does is just put a nice coating on it, so eliminates the fire scale the best it can. Now, the bad thing about these hollow chains is they usually require a little more solder to get them soldered together, just because with them being hollow, having that void, a lot of the solder will try to go into that void, fill it up. So it takes a little bit more solder to get them welded together than the solid chains. So a lot of people are usually surprised. They're like, man, it's not a solid, why does this cost more? It ain't a solid chain, it's a hollow chain. Well, it takes a lot more solder to fill that void in. If this was a solid chain, you use one piece solder, flow, done. And we almost forgot the most important part, flux. Because I'm an idiot. There we go. Got some flux now. You ain't got flux, it ain't going nowhere. It'll sit there all day long, ain't gonna flow. And sometimes your solder will fall off your pick when you heat it up. Boy, that solder just went poof right into the hollow place. Let's see if we can just to flow a little better here. Got the flow. Let's cut us a couple more pieces off here. Okay. And what we're doing is we're just trying to fill that void. And here again, you got to be very careful. This is hollow. So when you're dealing with a hollow piece like this, it's very easy to melt it. Very easy. You get a torch too hot, you see I'm using a very small blue bushy flame. Alright, we're going to need some more solder. Okay. Now probably in another video, I'm probably going to go over some of the basic tools. If you're starting out as a jeweler, just some of the basic tools that you need to get started. But for those of you out there that kind of already got a setup going, this will kind of help you out, give you a good framework where to start. And my solder decided to finally fall off my pick again. Okay. And it fell off my pick again. I'm being stubborn today. This is the stuff they don't show you in other videos. Now we lost that piece. It fell in my desk. Oh boy. This is the stuff they don't show you in other videos. This crap happens all the time. Sometimes you heat your solder up. What it is, I'm trying to get this solder on the side of it. And sometimes it'll stick, sometimes it won't. And when it don't stick, it will fall somewhere. Alright, we think we got that side done. Now we're gonna have to do the other side. So that's the bad thing about these hollow pieces, is you gotta fill in both sides. Now if this was just a solid Figaro chain, one piece of solder flow through, maybe two, and you'd be done. But that is not what we got going for us today. We got us a hollow piece. And we dropped our solder there. I'm gonna grab this other piece. It's a little bit tricky when you're trying to flow solder on the side, because it's got to stick. Once it comes off the pick, if it don't stick, it could very well roll off. Now I know a lot of people are going to say, well, isn't the flux supposed to help it stick and stay on there? Yeah, but even with the flux, it doesn't always stick. So it's a little trickier. But it's nothing major, it just takes a little more time. And you don't want to get in a hurry. You get in a hurry, that's when bad things happen. Alright, we got this thing filled in. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at both our sides here, make sure, which I'm sure you can see we've got that filled in. We got to file it down, but we have it soldered together. We're going to cool this off in some water so we don't burn ourselves. And that's another thing. I don't care if you're starting out, you're gonna burn yourself at some point, and you're gonna cut yourself. You're gonna cut your finger, especially with this cutting disc. I can't tell you how many times I've used this cutting disc and it slipped, sliced my finger or thumb wide open. It's gonna happen. Now as you get better, it happens very less, but when you're starting out, it is going to happen. I mean, it happens to every jeweler starting out. Now, you know, I hate to say this, but the funny thing is, a lot of people always thought that when I was younger, especially when I was in high school, thought that, you know, he's just chilling up at the shop. He's just doing this, doing that. You know, a lot of people didn't know I was doing repairs. They had no idea. At the time, we had a jeweler named Gary. He was doing our repairs. Not to say anything bad about Gary. I think it's just from generation to generation. But you know, I think that a lot of newer techniques have been, you know, I've seen some of Gary's work. His work was good for what he was taught, you know. I know this sounds conceited, but I think my work is a lot, like probably twice as better than his was. But I had some different knowledge than he did. You know, he was kind of more old school. I'm old school, but I'm also new school. So, you know, kind of like they're trying to use these laser welders now. And I find that the regular solder joints seem to hold up better than the laser joints. I find the laser joints don't, they seem brittle and soft for whatever reason, you know. So, but you know, a lot of people thought that I was just hanging around, and they were surprised when that wasn't the case. And it's funny how all of a sudden people show back up in your life when they realize you wasn't exactly what they thought you were. But that's another topic for a different day. What we're going to do now is we're going to use our rubber wheel. We're going to use that to file this down, make it smooth. Okay, now we're going to use our rubber mallet to kind of even this out just a little bit. You want to use a rubber mallet, you don't want to use a regular hammer, because with these links being hollow, you will for sure crush them. Okay, I think we are set to go. I'm just going to even this out a little bit more. There we go. Smooth it out just a little bit more. Alright, so you can see we got to clean it up still. You can see the black link here where it's a little tarnished. But we got that welded back together, we got it linked back in. And what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and go clean it up and polish it. And we'll be back in just a moment. Alright guys, we're back with that hollow Figaro chain, and as you can see, we are now fixed, polished, put back together. And it was broke here. You can't really tell. I mean, I would be able to find it because I know where I fixed it, but there you go. So if you got the tools and you want to fix a hollow chain yourself, especially a hollow Figaro, go ahead and fix it yourself. Save yourself some money. This is Rob the Jeweler, and I'll see you on the next one.